Hi, everybody. So, in my top 23 books of 2023 list, I mentioned some books that were on my TBR that I was currently reading, that were on my list. I have since making that list finished those books and have a whole stack of new books to show you that is on my TBR for January. The first book is The Color Purple by Alice Walker. I am reading this because the movie musical was just released in theaters on Christmas, and The Color Purple is one of my new favorite musicals. The movie from the 1980s has Oprah Winfrey in it, and I really want to see that movie as well. The next book is a Christmas book, which I just discovered I had on my shelf. I don't remember where I got this from or who bought it for me. But this book is called One Day in December by Josie Silver. I think she also wrote Christmas in New York, which is a Christmas book that Sarah Caroli reviewed on her channel. I think I read this book a couple of years ago, and I remember really liking it. So this is my second time reading it, and right now I am on page 193. So basically this is like a strangers to lovers trope about a girl who tries to track down a guy who she sees at the bus station, and it starts off in 2008 and goes until 2017, so it goes for like 9 years. So I'm about halfway through this book right now, and the buildup of the relationship is really cute, but I'm not going to give any spoilers. The next book the first book from my TBR that I finished is Love on the Brain by Hazelwood, which is one of my rereads. I read this book in April last year, around the same time that I was reading Friends, Lovers, and the Big Terrible Thing. So I love Hazelwood's writing. She writes a lot of books that are set in STEM. So when you think of the characters in her books, think of the show The Big Bang Theory. A lot of the characters in her books are pretty similar to those characters, though I must say the guy characters are not as rude as Sheldon Cooper tends to be. Like, I cannot stand Sheldon. He is one of my least favorite characters in any TV show. The next book I am reading, which I am a quarter of the way through, is Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I love this book because it is set in the style of an interview, and if you remember that show on VH1, Behind the Music, this book reminds me of a transcript from one of those interviews, and basically it follows a band in the 1970s called Daisy Jones and the Six, and I heard that there is a Amazon Prime show based on this book, and that there's a CD that goes with the Amazon Prime show. Who has seen the Amazon Prime show and who has listened to the soundtrack, please let me know in the comments, because I want to know if this is a show I should look up and this album I should listen to. The band in this book kind of reminds me of Fleetwood Mac, a group from the 1970s that I really like. My favorite song by them, in case you were wondering, is Go Your Own Way. The next book is Killers of a Certain Age. This is a thriller novel by Deanna Rayburn, and let me read you what it is about. They spent their lives as the deadliest assassins in a clandestine international organization. But now that they're 60 years old, 4 female friends can't just retire. It's kill or be killed in this action-packed thriller. by New York Times best-selling and Edgar Award-nominating author Deanna Rayburn. Billy, Mary, Alice, Helen, and Natalie have worked for the museum, an elite network of assassins, for 40 years. Now their talents are considered old school and no one appreciates what they have to offer in an age that relies more on technology and people skills. When the foursome is sent on an all-expenses paid vacation to mark their retirement, they are targeted by one of their own. Only the board, the top-level members of the museum, can order the termination of field agents, and the women realize they've been marked for death. Now, to get out alive, you have to turn them against their own organization, relying on experience and one another to get the job done, knowing that working together is the secret to their survival. They're about to teach the board what it really means to be a woman and a killer of a certain age. So, this book gives me vibes of the Golden Girls, but instead of living in Miami in a retirement village, they're basically FBI assassins. So I think this book is really neat. I'm really liking it. I am so far on page 85. The next book I'm reading this month is Zora, Books Her Happy Ever After. I just saw this book on the shelf at the library yesterday. Decided to pick it up because I love romantic comedy books, and I am looking forward to reading it. I haven't started it yet. I'm going to start it once I finish Daisy Jones and the Six. So the next set of books I'm reading are books with characters that is my feature of the month, which is books with characters with disabled protagonists in them. The first book I wanted to mention is Torch by Lynn Miller Lachmann. So this book is set during the war that ended the Soviet Union in the 1960s. I don't remember what the name of the war was, but it's about it's about a group of 4 college students, and one of them, I think the character with autism, his name is Thomas. He's friends with a revolutionary who gets killed in a fire on a college campus, and basically the other girl, Lydia, she is the fiance who is pregnant with the baby, and there's a whole bunch of drama settled around that. But this book is by an author who has my disability, autism spectrum disorder, and I love the fact that somebody with my disability has written a historical fiction book, because historical fiction is one of my favorite types of books to read. And I just started reading this book on Monday afternoon when I went over to my parents' house for New Year's Eve, and I am already on page 209. This book has been intense and impossible for me to put down. I'm really enjoying it. The next book I am reading that has a disabled protagonist is called List of 10 by Hallie Gomez. This is about a teenage boy who has OCD, anxiety, and depression. And there's a trigger warning in this book I wanted to warn readers about, because the main character in this book is also suicidal and talks a lot about killing himself throughout the story. I don't think he actually goes through with the suicide attempt, but I'm just warning you, if you want to read this book, that there is a trigger warning of suicide. So what makes this character relatable to me is that he has an anxiety disorder, and so do I. So he has a lot of trouble, like, interacting with his classmates and forming relationships. And I was like that for a while as a kid, too. Like, I'm pretty good at socializing with people, but sometimes I do have trouble with making eye contact and stuff like that. And I was diagnosed with an anxiety disorder right before COVID-19 started, and my anxiety disorder kind of escalated a lot during COVID-19 isolation because I was nervous about things getting canceled and when things were going to start up again and everything like that. So I felt really seen reading this. I have felt really seen reading this book as somebody who has anxiety, because this character is very relatable to me. The next book that features a disabled protagonist is Katherine Center's book, Hello Stranger. So Katherine Center also wrote a book that I read last month called How to Walk Away, which is about a girl who gets injured in a plane crash and gets paralysis. In this book, the main character gets a disorder called the title is right here. Hold on, let me get it. Prosopagnosia, which is basically facial blindness. So what happens is that the main character in this book, Sadie, has a accident that causes her to have a brain injury that makes her not be able to see faces properly, and this causes a bit of a problem for her because she's a portrait artist, so she has to overcome the challenge of not being able to see the faces of her clients while she's painting them. And I really love how she overcomes that challenge to kind of make sure that people are aware that she can actually still do her job, and she overcomes a lot of trials in this book by having an art show to prove to people that she can still do her art even though she has trouble seeing people's faces. And the relationship that she forms with the male character Joe is really sweet. There's a scene earlier in the book where she's having an anxiety attack on the roof on the roof of the apartment building during a party, and he basically goes there and goes to comfort her. Let me try to find a quote. I can't remember what page it's on. I should have really bookmarked this quote before I made this video because now I can't. Oh, here it is. Okay. It's on page 235. Did you worry at all that the darkness might freak me out? Nah, Joe said. We've got the moon. I looked up and saw it for the first time. It was brighter than I'd realized. I guess we do. It occurred to me then that I may have started to altering some of my opinions about Joe. Next, I said, and once the coast is clear, are you going to take me out for dinner like you promised? But Joe shook his head. No. I felt a flash of disappointment. You're not? No, Joe confirmed, turning back to the moon, because I already ordered the pizza. So basically, in this scene, Joe went to the roof of the apartment building because there was a party, and Sadie had an anxiety attack because of her facial blindness, so she had to go to the roof to, like, get away from the crowd. And Joe is really sweet to her in this scene and calms her down after her anxiety attack, and I just love it. It's so sweet and so cute. The final book I wanted to talk about, I finished right before New Year's Eve, so it was really at the end of my December TBR list, but it's Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros. This book was talked about so much last year by Sarah Caroli and Rachel Katherine and Destiny Sidwell on their YouTube channels, and I just had to read it, especially when I found out that the lead character in this book, Violet, had my disability, cerebral palsy. It is so cool that there is a main character in a fantasy book who is a dragon fighter that has my disability, because it just proves that even in fantasy, people with cerebral palsy can do anything. And, like, I have been watching the How to Train Your Dragon movies recently too, and I don't know if people have realized this before, but Hiccup also has a disability because he has a prosthetic leg. So I think it is also cool that the directors of the How to Train Your Dragon movies also gave their lead character a disability. So yeah, this book was hard to put down. The action in it was intense. The relationship between Xaden and Violet is very slow to build up, but once it does build up, it gets pretty intense too. And I don't want to provide any spoilers because I want you guys to read this book because it is fantastic. So that is my progress report on my January TBR. I will be posting review videos starting on January 15th when I review holiday books, and then Matt and I have a video coming out on the 21st where we're going to be doing our first portion of our review series about comparing live action and animated Disney movies. And in this section of animated and live action movie comparisons, I have also read some books based on these Disney movies. They are Cinder, which is part of the Lunar Chronicle series by Marissa Meyer, Confessions of an Ugly Stepsister by Gregory Maguire, the author of Wicked. The Entangled with Fae series, which includes modern retellings of The Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, and Cinderella, and the Twisted Tale series, which is alternate endings of Disney movies. The books that we have are for The Little Mermaid and Mulan, and they're called Part of Your World and Reflection. So, the first series of book reviews about Disney animated movie characters will be out with the book reviews. Will be out with the movie reviews for the live action Disney animated movie comparisons. Also, in that video, we will be reviewing the Nutcracker, which was the ballet that we saw on Thanksgiving weekend that we never got to reviewing during the holidays because things just got too busy. And we're also going to reviewing a local touring production of Come From Away, which we're seeing on the 12th. So stay tuned for all of that, and have a good weekend. Happy New Year, everybody.